variety we're looking at here is Darlene. Darlene is a early to mid-season bronze female, released by Ison's Nursery. Darlene is a unique variety because it can be harvested at this kind of lightish bronze color here, and when it gets fully ripe, it'll get a little bit more of that auburn or pinkish tint to it. In my opinion, Darlene is probably the best eating, tasting bronze variety that's out there. It's very unique because it has somewhat of a melting pulp, so it's just really fantastic flavor. One of the issues with Darlene that we run into, it seems like the further south you go, the less productive they are. And to be honest with you, the fruit load that we're looking at here is a very heavy crop load for Darlene. Normally don't quite see it load up this heavy. Generally for us, a good yield per vine on Darlene would be somewhere in that 30 to 35 pound range, but this year they really set a very good crop. And we can come through here and look at some of the fruit set here. You can just see all that fruit that's just locked in there. So this is sort of a very heavy yield for Darlene. Usually when you get into South Georgia, say below Macon, below Montgomery, the yields really do drop off. It seems like if you're north of Macon, north of Montgomery, then the yields are better, but they're never what we would categorize as a very heavy producing variety. Dry scar, very little disease issues. You know, one thing typically with Darlene though is it's very aggressive in its growth. You can kind of see a little bit there how much vine growth we have in here and just how thick these vines are. A couple of things that we do recommend people to do to help improve yields on Darlene. First is we like to see it planted close to a self-fertile variety. When we were commercially growing Darlene, our rows of Darlene that were closest to our self-pollinating rows would always have a 20% or more increase in yields than the ones that were further away. The second thing that we do recommend people to do is, like, take this vine right here. So say if we were just prior to bloom, a lot of times because how much growth Darlene puts on, the blooms are stuck up under the leaf canopy, and it makes it that much more difficult for the Darlene to be pollinated. So one thing that we would recommend doing just prior to bloom is coming in and cutting some of this excess growth out. Obviously, don't cut it where you're cutting out the blooms, but by cutting some of this excess growth out, the blooms will become more exposed, and I believe it will get better pollination and better fruit set. This is primarily a home variety now, just because of the yields in different areas just weren't quite good enough. I still like it for home use. I just think the flavor is outstanding, and it's really a beautiful grape. And this is Darlene.